Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Big Word Day, Tony. What's your favorite big word?
Tony Kornheiser. Antetokounmpo. That's my favorite big word.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It took me 2 years to know how to do it.
Listen, I thought you were going to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's mine.
No.
I win with that one all the time.
Well, I understand, but that's from a movie that's 60 years old at this point. I'm not going back that far.
It is.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Joel Embiid hits a huge shot. The Bulls are back in it, and Jay Wright retires from Villanova. But we begin today with the Boston Celtics, again winning a close game at home over the Brooklyn Nets, this one by 7 points, to go up 2-0 in that series. The game was headlined by the failures of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Irving had just 10 points and 1 assist. Durant shot miserably, 4 for 17 overall, 0 of 10 in the second half. 0 of 10. Wilbon, was this about the Celtics being good or Durant and Irving being bad?
It's about the Celtics' defense. I went into the series saying this. We had to pick this. And I said, I don't ride with teams that don't play defense. And the Nets don't really play defense. They're like 20th or lower in the league of defensive efficiency. The Celtics are 1. The Celtics' defense harassed KD and Kyrie into those numbers. And it's not to say that great offense can't beat great defense, because it can, it often does. But in the playoffs, Tony, and we have seen this historically, you go back and look at the great teams, of course, in any sport, but in these playoffs, we're talking about basketball. You put that kind of defense on people. Look, that reminded me last night. This is nightmarish for a Chicago guy to say. It reminded me of the late 1980s and early 1990s defense that the Pistons would put on Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Jordan Rules. A book was written by Sam Smith about Jordan Rules, and some of that was about Detroit's defense and how they did that. That's what it looked like the Celtics were doing last night to Kevin Durant. The Nets didn't help themselves. Where was a screen ever set, for God's sake? And the passing was non-existent, and Durant had the ball going off his shin and off his knee, and that's because defense is harassing them both. Now, all people want to do now in sports is praise offense, okay? Watch the Celtics defense.
Okay, so I'm not about to give away this series. These are two very close games, a shot here, a shot there, and you have a different result. I'm not going to be at all surprised if Brooklyn goes home and wins 2. I'm not. Right. But the preponderance of praise, like you just said, goes to the Boston defense and to the Boston Celtics players for the buy-in. Because Durant and Irving are not getting one-on-one defense. Every time they touch the ball, there's 4 to 6 hands around them. The players had to buy in. If you look at the box score, for example, they bought in on offense as well. 7 guys in double figures, none higher than 22 points. No one took more than 18 shots. They're a real team. They are not dependent on 1 or 2 players. They are a real team, which indicates to me that the guy who's coaching them has some good idea of what he's got on that squad, because they have had the better team.
Tone, you know what you're describing? Something from both of our youth. You're describing the Boston Celtics. They invented that kind of play. That's what they did. Whether it was Russell and Kuzi, or Russell and Havlicek, or Havlicek and Cowens, or just right on down through history. That's what the Celtics have done. And they're doing it now. And yes, I, like you, think that the Brooklyn Nets will figure out a way to counter this. Kevin Durant, I love his demeanor. That's not on them. This is on me to figure this out. I love Durant's demeanor. I think he'll figure it out for Game 3, and I think this will become a series. But right now, it's the Celtics. We had 2 other games in the East last night. Toronto, Joel Embiid hit a turnaround 3 off an inbounds pass to put the Sixers up 3-0. And in Milwaukee, DeMar DeRozan scored 41 as my Bulls upset the defending champion Cheeseheads, who also lost All-Star Chris Middleton to an MCL sprain in the 4th quarter. Tone, which was the bigger deal?
Get to that in a second. Just want to compliment you on making 2 great picks last night. You said the Nets were going to win. They lost. You said the Bulls had no chance because they gassed in the 4th quarter of the first game. And, of course, they won.
0 for 2, baby.
Good for you. Now I will get to the question. The answer is not the Embiid shot. It's a great shot. It's a cool play. Out of an inbounds play, nobody expects a 7-footer to take a 3. But there was no jeopardy there. It was a tie game. So it's not that. The answer is the Bucks and the Bulls. not so much for the score, Mike, but for, as you said, Chris Middleton. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Devin Booker and how his injury could hurt the Phoenix Suns. He's the best scorer on that team. Middleton is second. Antetokounmpo is the best player and the best scorer. But they're 8-12 in the last 2 years when Middleton misses games. And what he's got, an MCL, maybe that keeps him out 2 weeks, maybe longer. I am a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. But it gets you into the next series if they get past this first series. That, Mike, was the more significant thing that happened last night.
Yeah, Tony, I think it was. When the champs lose at home like that, and the Bulls, I'm not going to say the Bulls solved them. I'm not going to say that. But the Bulls have figured out what they have to do in terms of toughness and spirit and dedication. I mean, Kyle Lowry once told me a couple of years ago, Tony, he talked about the physical buy-in. You mentioned buy-in, the physical sacrifice you have to make to play defense against Antetokounmpo. Because he is big and powerful and athletic as hell, and he's going to run you over. And you got to stand there and take it and deal with that before you can establish yourself defensively. The Bulls have done that, Tone. I don't know how long they can keep it up. I don't know how many times you can ask DeRozan to score 40. I was happily stunned last night. By the way, Embiid, part of the greatness of that, Tony, is the play drawn up by Doc Rivers because he's mic'd up. He draws it up, and they execute it down to every screen and every millimeter just the way Doc said. It was great to see that happen. And it shows when people say, all right, coaching, our dear friend Dan Lebitard, coaching in the NBA doesn't matter. Huh? What? It matters a hell of a lot, particularly in the playoffs when you have situations like that.
Let's move to the stunning news yesterday evening that Jay Wright was retiring from coaching Villanova after 21 seasons. Wright is only 60 years old. He has 2 national championships and 4 trips to the Final Four. Wright says he will remain affiliated with Villanova as some sort of special assistant. Wilbon, does this move make sense to you?
Tony, it's funny. You know, you have to consider the context you're in. As I sit here in Scottsdale, Arizona, behind me is a community where when people heard this news last night, I was out watching games and people were talking about this. A lot of basketball fans from, a lot of them from back in the Midwest, not necessarily the East. And people have retired, some of them early. And they go, wow, this is crazy. Jay Wright's retired. Oh, wait, I'm 60 and I'm out here and I ain't doing any more work either. And so this is the life I have chosen for myself. And these are, in some cases, incredibly successful and wealthy people who are competitive in their lives. And the world is changing and people talk about life balance. I don't know anything about life balance. I've never known about that. But I'm listening to people, Tone, and it shocks me, as good as Jay Wright is what he's doing, that he would say no at 60, because it seemed like he had, I don't know what, 6, 8, 10 years maybe at the top of his game if he wanted to stay there. I'm shocked, but I'm not going to say it doesn't make sense. I did different considerations. I don't know what Jay Wright's are. They're new considerations for a lot of people.
So I was floored when I heard this, because 60 seems very young to me, and he's at the peak of his powers. And what this means, Mike, was essentially in a calendar year, we have seen Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, and Jay Wright walk away from college coaching and take 10 national championships with them. 10. There's only 2 guys who are active right now, Rick Pitino and Bill Self, who have more than 1, and they have 2. I don't know about this. I wish Jay Wright all the luck in the world. I don't know. Is he tired? Is it going to last forever? Every once in a while, a guy gets out early and doesn't go back. Everybody thought Bill Cowher was going to go back. He never went back, and he's not going to go back now. I know I join you in wishing Jay Wright all the luck in the world, but I will say this. Every important job, college or pro, that comes up in the next 2 years, because he's turned down the Sixers at least twice. People are going to say, is this the one for Jay Wright? Is this the one for Jay Wright? And that's,
let me just say this.
We don't know what the plan is.
The Lakers one is not for Jay Wright.
No.
That ain't for him.
No. Let's take a break.
Stop.
Coming up, some bracing news about Devin Booker for the Suns.
And what is Draymond Green doing to Nikola Jokic that no one else seems to be able to do? We're going to ask.
See, Mike, when you lose a player, in the NBA, it's not like the NFL. It's not next man up, because you're asking him to play 40 minutes, and he's not as good as the guy who just went out. It hurts your team more than because he's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Let's start with this. Brian Windhorst, our colleague at ESPN, is reporting that Devin Booker has a grade 1 hamstring strain and could miss 2 to 3 weeks. Yikes. What should the Suns do now?
Wilbon, I hope this don't mess up our great friendship, but the Phoenix Suns and the fans, they should panic. They should panic. Look, here's why. Here's why. I'm looking at the way that the Pelicans are playing, their spirit, the way that they're going about things, and the worst thing that could have happened to the Suns was that the Pelicans won game 2. Now they have the confidence, and not only do they have the confidence, but they actually have the best player in this series on their team, and Brandon Ingram. I mean, he is a baby KD in the making. And when I look at it, can the Suns actually depend on DeAndre Ayton, Tony, the way that Jonas Valanciunas has been owning him down in the paint? I don't know if CP3 has enough to get them through this series, and this is why I'm picking the Pelicans to actually win this in 6 games.
Ooh,
Wow. Wow, Wilbon.
Man.
Wow.
I know. Kendrick's right, though. I mean, look, there's worry. Behind me back there, where you see those mountains in Saguaro, there's worry all over the valley. We're going to talk about another series because I'm nervous now. Kendrick, as well as you know, defense. What in the world should the Nets do to counter the defense the Celtics are blanketing them with right now?
You know what? I think it got to start from Steve Nash. At what point is he's going to put his foot down and hold guys accountable, right? When we look at defense, it's a reflection of your coach, meaning guys are buying into what the coach is saying. And when you see the Brooklyn Nets giving up easy baskets in transition, when you see the Brooklyn Nets not being tied on the string and scrambling on the defensive end, that is a problem. That is a reflection of the coach. And by the way, he has to find a way to get Kevin Durant going. I know he's used to Kevin Durant bailing him out, but now it has to come a time where he actually has to bail Kevin Durant out and get him off of pin downs, down screens, and get Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Grant Williams up off of him and give him some easier looks.
Kendrick, I'm going to follow up just for a second on the Celtics and their defense. This seems like throwback defense. This seems like, I know it's not as physical, it seems like Jordan rules defense on KD. Is he getting defended harder by the Celtics than he has been by anybody else recently?
Yes. And I actually been through a movie and lived and played the role in a movie with Kevin Durant when we battled the Grizzlies, and I have never seen anything like what the Celtics are doing to him. They're touching him up. They're bumping him off his spots. Listen to this. Kevin Durant can't even run up and set a screen on Kyrie Irving because the Celtics are bumping him up where he can't even run. When he's trying to cross through the paint to get it on the low block on the cross screen, Al Horford and Jason Tatum are hitting him with elbows and everything else. And so the reflection of that, guess what happens? When you wear on a guy in the first, second, and third quarter, by the time Kevin Durant is getting to the fourth quarter, that's why we saw him go 0 for 10 last night, because he was exhausted.
Tired. One more question about the Nets. It's insane to me that Ben Simmons is just going to be dropped into a series with this intensity at this point. What side of this whole bringing Ben Simmons thing are you on?
I'm on your side. And it's disturbing for people to even think that he could come back after not playing the entire year. Almost the entire year, and you're talking about coming back and playing basketball at his highest level against guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you think that Ben Simmons is going to go out there and lock those guys up or have some type of defensive presence to help change this series, you're wishful thinking. And he's coming off a back injury, and the last time we saw Ben Simmons, how did he look?
Not good.
Thank you.
Not good.
We're going to stay with defense for another question because you're so good at analyzing what's going on. But we move to the Warriors and the Nuggets. Austin Rivers of the Nuggets said, this is a direct quote, "Draymond has really been hurting us. People aren't really noticing that. He's beating up Nikola Jokic." When you watch Draymond, what is he doing that nobody else seems to be able to do to Jokic?
where he's outsmarting him for once, but he's meeting him early. I remember when I used to have to battle Dwight Howard and Doc would say, Perk, you have him straight up and we're not sending help. So you have to do your work early. See, a lot of guys think that, oh, I'm going to let Jokic catch the ball and then I'm going to try to stop him. Well, if you watch Draymond, he's denying them. Soon as he cross half court, he's meeting them with his chest. He's doing all the little things so that he can't set up shop to get the basketball. So now he's using so much energy to work to get position on Draymond, and then all of a sudden, Draymond is lower to the ground. He's getting into his legs. He's not leaving them. He's trusting the other guys to stay home and stay connected on the cutters. And now Jokic, they're basically saying, here, we're going to put our former defensive player on your MVP, and we're going to take away everyone else, and let's see if Jokic can go out there and get you 40 or 50. And he can.
Let's get the chance to mention him participating in the World Series with the Cubs. He was there for a cup of coffee, an absolute transition with my franchise.
Happy anniversary, Eddie Murray.
Eddie Murray, too. Tony, the first home run I ever saw, Mickey Mantle, I was 4 or 5 years old, at the old Comiskey Park in Chicago. Left side of the plate hit the facade of the roof, and I remember my father holding me up so I could see the ball go out and number 7 rounding the bases. That's my first in-person memory in baseball.
Wow, that's a nice story. Happy trails to Miguel Cabrera's bid for 3,000 hits.
Club inside a special club. At least he gets the attempts to more at-bats at home in Detroit. Say, you don't have to boo Booney for that. Come on.
It's a tremendous list of players. It is tremendous.
Unbelievable list.
Let's go to the big finish. Novak Djokovic, your boy, won in 3 sets at the Serbia Open for the 2nd straight day. Is that significant?
No, not everything is a big deal. You know he's going to get himself together and be the great player he's been. Alex Ovechkin scored his 49th and 50th goals of the season. Is that a big deal?
This is a big deal. This is his 9th time to 50. Nobody's been 10, and only Mike Bossy and Gretzky have been 9, and he's 36 years old. He's still great. Man U named Erik ten Hag as its new manager. Is that significant?
He's leaving Ajax, and he's taking his incredible wardrobe, like Jay Wright and Pat Riley. He's in that category, Tone, taking that with him. Shohei pitched 6 shutout, striking out 12. You're impressed, aren't you?
Yeah, his first couple of starts weren't all that great. He not only had a great start, he got 2 hits and he drove in 2 runs. He's something unique in baseball right now. Last one, Grizzlies-Wolves, Game 3 tonight. Who you got?
Who used to call these things barn burners? Was that our dear friend Uncle Brett? There's going to be a barn burner tonight. I got the Grizzlies in something close. How about overtime?
Okay, we're out of time. Try and do better the next time. Dino Majuli, shout out. My dentist.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now, here's SportsCenter.
Well, man, you're related to your dentist, aren't you? Isn't he your brother-in-law?